the technical seminars of the IDB Group Annual Meetings. Let me remind you that if you're here in the room, there are interpretation headsets available. If you're following the transmission, you can select your language on the different channels. To inaugurate the seminars, it is a true pleasure to welcome IDB Group President Ilan Goldfajn with opening remarks. Welcome, Mr. Goldfajn.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. We're very happy to see you here for the kickoff of the seminars during the annual meetings of the IDB and IDB Invest. I do want to begin by expressing my gratitude to this great country, Paraguay, hosting the annual meetings. I hope that you all get an opportunity to make the most of the extraordinary things this country offers, and a country that has welcomed us very warmly.
Let me switch to English. I'm happy to say that our gathering here comes after a record year for the IDB Group. It was a record year in scale, in financing. $35 billion in financing that includes mobilization is an all-time high. Not only it's an all-time high, but it is 50% more than in 2022. That means that the IDB Group grew by half its size in the last 3 years. That is scale. That is something that happened without yet the capitalization kicking in. But scale is not the goal itself. What matters even more is what do we do with the scale, with the resources, the impact. So we are reinforcing the focus on the reforms to improve how financing translates into impact. For example, let me give you a very important reform that we have just passed, the policy-based reform. It's called the PBF, the policy-based financing reform. The framework, the policy-based framework reform. I will divide this reform in 5 areas. 1, more quality and reform design, 10 measures to how we are designing the project. Second, how we're going to track the results over time. Because one thing is to design them well. The other is looking at the results over time, not wait for the end. Number 3, we need to provide more tools, financing modalities, and we included new disaster risk instruments. A lot of the countries in the region really care about disaster because they are facing disaster. And we are giving the resources in a way more agile and more purpose in terms of impact. Then we look at how we're going to size these operations. We call it dimensioning, which means how much money we will give to specific reforms. That's innovative. No MDB has done that. We are proposing that. Last but not least, we are coordinating in terms of macroeconomic assessments, where we are coordinating with the IMF when they are working with the countries, how we are going to take advantage of the fact that they are looking at the macroeconomic, and we are going to separate what is pure liquidity from the reforms that we would like to do. So those are the 5 major issues, very innovative, but it gives you an idea that the record finance of last year is coming with a lot of effort and a lot of quality measures. Just to give you some numbers of impact. Examples. Our impact report, which you can see, and you can see here, you can see there is a wall with a lot of results. Just come by, you look at it. If you don't want to see the English, go see Spanish that aside. It's very nice. Examples. We have reached 35 million people that are now getting quality health and nutrition service. We have reached 2.6 million people with broadband services. We have supported 3 million micro, small, and mid-sized companies. And we help 900,000 farmers. This is impact, this is number of people that have reached. Now, we need evaluations. Independent, our OVE, which is the Office of Evaluation and Oversight, they always look at the completion of the reforms. And they said that 63% of the completed IDB projects received a positive overall rating. That is 16% point increase from the previous year. IDB Invest also exceeded its target with 68% of projects rated positively. So, impact is scale and quality. So, over the next decade, we will deploy many billions across the region. We're gonna look at the real results, growth, quality jobs, lower poverty. What I just said brings me to the seminars, to the topics of the seminars. We prepare every year panels. We choose the topics, and the topics, we want them to be close to our priorities. We always ask ourselves, what do countries need? How are their needs changing these years? How must we change to best support them? So, for example, our countries, we know, are facing economic challenges. They are facing technological challenges, all the AI, but they're also facing demographic issues. We are getting older as a region very fast. So those pose challenges. So we organize this week's seminars around 3 strategic priorities that the group wants to foster this year. So let me start telling you about the priorities and how the seminars fit into this priority. First priority, we are fostering private sector-led development. The involvement of the private sector is to bring scale, foster growth, and create jobs. The involvement of the private sector is to bring this scale and that make growth higher. Growth is central to create jobs and reduce poverty. Just to give you a few numbers. In our region, and 1 percentage point increase in growth can reduce poverty by up to 1.8 percentage points. And 60% of people who exit poverty do so by getting a job. The issue is that public resources alone cannot deliver the scale of growth the region needs. Private investment is essential. Companies invest, they innovate, they create jobs. Government provide the enabling conditions, the stability, the infrastructure, and the regulatory environment that make this possible. We like to say that we are the private sector MDB. The IDB Group is leveraging its private sector hands, IDB Invest, IDB Lab, but using the 65 plus years of experience with the region's public sector to create these synergies. We have now the 3.5 billion capitalization of IDB Invest, which will increase its firepower, and a new business model at IDB Lab and IDB Invest that will help us empower companies, startups, and entrepreneurs across the region. The priorities this year also include LAC-CRECE, Latin America and the Caribbean Growth Platform. We are launching it here. LAC-CRECE focuses on removing bottlenecks to growth, on raising productivity, helping countries adopt new technologies, including artificial intelligence. You see, what I just said has to do a lot with several of the thematic seminars. Let's start with people. We talk about demographics. Well, Aging is an issue. Latin America and the Caribbean is aging faster than any other region in the world. In just 29 years, 3 decades, the share of the population age 65 and older will double. It took Europe 60 years, what we're going to do in 29. Aging is often framed as a fiscal challenge, and it is. But it's not the only issue. Longevity can also become a powerful drive of innovation, new markets, and new forms of employment. That's the reason we have a seminar, a panel that says Aging and Growing, Transforming Demographics into Opportunity, that explores this issue. Another topic of the seminar is about resilience. Several resilience, but let's concentrate on household resilience. Families face a lot of risks, from economic volatility that changes the wealth, to health, we just had the pandemics a few years ago, to natural disasters that dislocate people. Each year, a major shock affects one of our households. So, the topic you're going to hear, from coping to thriving, resilience during shocks. We examine how households respond and how policy can help prevent temporary shocks from turning into long-term problems like poverty. Productivity also depends on other issues. For example, how markets function. In many countries, markets are highly concentrated. That limits competition, slows innovation, reduces opportunities. This is the issue that the research department of the IDB has deepened in its development in the Americas, the DIA flagship, revealed that if product markets in the region were as competitive as those in advanced economies, GDP per capita will be 11% higher. And labor markets, they could gain 25%. So the labor gains, labor income can go 25%, and the GDP per capita 11%. If we're not able to read the DIA yet, we'll bring you a panel, a seminar, Markets for Development and Improving Lives Through Competition, where it's based on the report, we'll explore the issues that I just met. I don't think you should miss that and the other seminars. But before I move from the priority of private sector-led growth, I need to tell you that this conference is a conference of the IDB Group together, IDB Invest, and IDB Lab. And the private sector is deeply engaged in this conference. IDB Invest has a significant agenda. IDB is bringing the business forum. They're working together. We have invited and they accepted 1,600 people from the private sector, 350 plus CEOs, the highest level, and the directors, the C-level executive, 780 are here, not only in Paraguay, but here in this complex. So we will have panels, roundtables, bilateral discussions from several topics. Private sector should be at the heart of development and of our group. Second priority, critical minerals. We believe critical minerals and secure supply chains are an opportunity for the region and for the IDB too. We know that technology and the AI boom is accelerating demand for energy and critical minerals, placing Latin America and the Caribbean at the center of an emerging minerals landscape. The region holds a good part of the world's global critical minerals. Most of it goes for exports of raw materials. But countries, and we can hear them, they want more than that. They want to move beyond extraction. They want to add value locally for refining, processing, because that will give them more income, more jobs, more capacity, and that will give the world supply chains that are strong and safe. And that's the alignment we're talking about in IDB LAC Minerals, which we are also launching this week. The alignment defines IDB LAC Minerals. On one side, Latin America and the Caribbean bring scale, bring the lithium, the copper, the nickel, the iron ore, the rare earths, and they're bringing a growing policy commitment to the sector to add value, including for refining and processing. What the world can bring? The world can bring long-term contracts, advanced processing technology, attractive pricing, and financing to the long run. In order to do what? To foster safe supply chains originating in this region. So what is our role? As you often hear me, we are the bridge. We want to be the bridge in the minerals sector. We're going to support policy and regulatory framework. We're going to catalyze investment to come. We're going to have financing. And we're going to help the region add value chain infrastructure. We're going to have a seminar on that here. So that's another seminar. It's called Beyond Extraction, Value Chains for Critical Minerals, which will discuss how countries across the region, from Mexico to Argentina to Chile, can move from raw exporting to building more value added to the supply chains that generate jobs, skill, long-term growth, and an entire hemisphere that's more secure. Last but not least, regional integration. That's our third priority. We want to integrate those who are ready to integrate, that are ready to move. Our progress don't require unanimous globalization. But if coalitions of countries are ready to align standards, regulations, investment framework, integration can move. And we would like to foster that. We have platforms. You have heard us. So we have the one Caribbean. The Caribbean countries want to move together. We have the American Center, which Central America wants to move together. We have South Connection, which is South America wants to connect. We have the Amazonia Forever, that the Amazon countries want to deal with the Amazon region. They want to integrate. And that's what we're doing. We're turning agreements, policy desires into concrete projects. And of course, as we do it, we bridge across sectors, across borders, between public and private sector through these initiatives. And we also have thematic initiatives that deals with violence, with care, and others. So in our seminar on integration, regional integration reimagined, we will move beyond roads and bridges and discuss lowering border costs, harmonizing standards, mobilizing private investment that make countries more competitive. Finally, we're going to follow the EU-Mercosur agreement. We'll host a high-level dialogue on what comes next, how governments and the private sector work together with the IDB as a bridge can translate into agreement, concrete outcomes, more investment, more jobs, more growth. So, those are the seminars. They reflect the IDB Group's role, priorities. The IDB Group role has not only financing, but has a knowledge bank, connecting evidence, policy, investment, and this convening power. So I hope that you all find this discussion useful, engaging, and action-oriented. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy these seminars.
Thank you for those insightful remarks. Thank you, Mr. President, President Goldfajn. Let's now begin with the seminar. Damos inicio al seminario Envejecer y Crecer.
We are beginning with our seminars, Aging and Growing, Transforming Demographics into Opportunity, and we're ready to get started.
We're going to continue switching back and forth between English and Spanish. Ahora damos la bienvenida a Santiago Levy.
I want to welcome Santiago Levy, who is the non-resident senior fellow at Brookings Institution.
Welcome.
Gracias. Gracias. Good afternoon, everybody. Does this work? Good afternoon, everybody. Let me begin by thanking President Ilan Goldfajn for the invitation. Ilan, thank you very much. It's a very pleasure to be here. Thank also Ferdinando, who will be joining the panel in a minute, who is the person responsible for my being here. It's a pleasure to be back in Paraguay, and it's a real pleasure to see many old friends from the IDB. So I'm delighted to be here. Yeah. Could we put in the, does this work? Okay, so what I'll try to do in the next 10 minutes is frame the discussion, and then from there Ferdinando will take over, and the panel members and I will try to enrich the discussion. So let me begin